Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I've got me brew, which is always good. Let's have a quick slurp. Fantastic. Just pop that over there. Just put the gold top down. Just had a bit of a play around with this one. I'll just pop it over here for now. And okay guys, today's edition is very simply all about improvisation and what it can do for you as a guitarist or a musician wanting to do something a little bit creative which brings out you in your playing to allow you to put your character into a piece of music which is all about you and how you want to express yourself. When I was a young boy, I used to have piano lessons, and Thursday night of the week when I was about 10 years old, I have to say, I absolutely dreaded Thursday after school. It was absolutely awful. You could send me to school 5 days of the week and it was nowhere near as bad as going to piano lessons on a Thursday night. I was playing piano and I was reading music. I was able to do some basic theory and I'd be doing several examinations, grade 1 and grade 2 piano, and probably progressing, but to be honest I wasn't really interested in playing the piano, and I think it might have been down to the material that I was actually playing. And I remember I did an examination. I had to play a piece called Minuet, and I think the following year I had to play the same song again but in a different key, and I thought, I don't even like the song, and why am I playing the same music the next year? And I absolutely hated it. But it gave me a good foundation into understanding how music theory works. About that time I was getting into music that I really liked and music that I really wanted to do. And that involved doing songs from the shows, for example, Broadway musicals such as Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, to name a few of the things that I like to do. For example, West Side Story. I absolutely love West Side Story. The point I was sort of coming on to was that during that time, a fantastic lady called Charlotte Dawson, we always knew her as called Auntie Lottie, she asked me if I wanted to do some singing lessons. I was still a young boy, and that's what I did for many, many years. But in a musician's sense, it allowed me to develop what I learnt in terms of the piano theory, moving it into the singing arena, and using all that experience to move on to where I am today. all those years of being on the stage at the Marine Hall singing fantastic songs as a solo singer, as a chorus line singer, it's given me a really good ear for music. Now, not too long after that, I then started thinking, well, hang on, I'm getting into rock music now, quite like this. Didn't really like the piano, but I like rock guitar. And that's how my future with guitar actually, it's how it started, to be fair. But I have that background, but I'm by no means an expert in music theory at all. But I do have a good ear, a musical ear, for very quickly being able to work out a song without actually having to refer to a full score of music or the sheet music or whatever. And I'm quick to actually try and work out what the key of a song is and what the progressions are, so on and so forth. So I'm very quick at learning these songs. So we're talking about improvisation, and that is how I like to express myself. For example, one of the tracks that we play in the band is a track called Who's Crying Now by Journey, and I just love the guitar solo at the end of that track because it allows me to be who I am playing guitar, and I'm able to put my stamp on it and let my character as a musician come out through that piece of music, which is really, really good. But can improvisation replace, or should it replace, a melody as it's written by the composer or the writer that's actually produced that work of art? And I would say that there's a place in my guitar world for both camps on that. So if I can give you a little bit of an example, a world famous guitarist was asked recently, this last year, I'm not going to mention any names, but he went to do some session work where he met up with another guitarist that he didn't know, and this guy turns up and is a massive improviser, doesn't know a right lot about the theory, and I don't too. I mean, I just know the basics. And he's basically arrived at this gig, if you will, to actually do some recording or this job. And he sat down with a session guitarist who's never performed live in front of a pub or an audience of such. So the session guitarist has got all the sheet music out in front of him on music stands and stuff. And he's sight reading the music, which means you're reading the notes as the melody progresses. And the other guitarist, who's a bit like me, turns up and he's been able to use his musical ear and basically get involved in it straight away and get a feel and a good vibe for it. And that for me was two different camps. One's a sight reader, one's not a sight reader. One is playing by what the music is telling him to play, by reading it. And secondly, the improviser is thinking, do you know what? I've got the groove straight away for this, but I'm able to basically pick it up and improvise and do just as good a job. But the first guy, when they had the conversation later on, says, I wish I could do what you could do, mate. He says, I can't improvise whatsoever. I just do what's on the sheet of music in front of me. I was picking up the guitar and I had this basic foundation of music where I was able to read the actual music as a manuscript, if you will. But there was no internet in the day, and I used to basically obtain the sheet music for really good songs that I quite liked. Now, the point I'm getting onto is that, for example, some music, when you want to actually play it live, you cannot stray away from the melody, otherwise it will not work. For example, the opening riff to Eric Clapton's Layla, you can't make your own up, you've got to play what he plays because it just would not work, it would not be right. I ended up with a lot of sheet music from famous bands like Whitesnake, Def Leppard, people like that, and there's one in particular, I got the actual sheet music for Wanted Dead or Alive. Now back in the day, there was no internet, there's no tablature, but I don't really go with tab either. And I was able, through my music theory, to work out very quickly how to play the introduction to Wanted Dead or Alive, which is a fantastic acoustic track and lots of people play it, and I wanted to play it too. So I had to buy the music and work it all out. And that basic music theory allowed me to do that by reading that music within that score and actually transferring that to the actual fretboard on the guitar, which I did. And that takes me right back to day one of those piano lessons. And I'm glad that I did those piano lessons to this day, because it gave me a foundation. Even though I hated Thursday nights after school, it was a real value which I really appreciate to this very day. And it's given me the good musical ear to actually pick songs up and work out how to play them very, very quickly. So in the world of improvisation, do we really need to stick to exactly how a track has been played or put together? Well, I would say yes, but equally I would say no. And today's edition is mainly going to be looking at While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles, and in particular the many, many versions of this track that's been played live over the years to present day. George Harrison is playing a Fender Strat, and you'll see that Eric Clapton is there, who's playing a Les Paul. And you've got a nice dynamic balance of tone, which I mentioned in previous episodes, where you've got single coils and you've got humbuckers. And they've got a nice little bit of a guitar, not a dual as such, but they're working well together because they're equally tonally very different instruments, and they work very, very well. If there were two Les Pauls playing together with exactly the same sound and amps and pickups and everything like that, then it would not have worked quite so well. But equally, in that same video, you've got the likes of Elton John on the piano, you've got Mark King on bass, and you've got Phil Collins on the drums there. And the whole video, the whole point of this is that at the end of the actual song, you've got Eric Clapton and George Harrison doing a guitar solo in unison almost, both together, where they're basically complementing each other very nicely with their individual techniques and styles and tones. It's really down to two guys on a stage getting vibe from each other and letting their emotions and their characters to come out within that track. And that is what it's all about. You got Peter Frampton on his Les Paul, and that is the Les Paul that, bizarrely enough, it survived an air crash, got stolen, and it was found, I think it was in Asia, 15, 20 years later, and Peter Frampton managed to get it back. And what a story just about a guitar, but that's another story. So you've got Peter Frampton there with his Les Paul, but in a modern sense between Peter Frampton and Eric Clapton. Les Paul, Strat, complement each other. Both guitarists are getting a good vibe from each other. That in turn is drawing out their emotions. They're playing off each other, they're getting a vibe from the audience, the band's picking up on it as well. And that again leads to immense improvisation. Peter is not overplaying Eric Clapton at all, but there's a really good two-way vibe. Eric Clapton is the master, and Peter Frampton is saying, look, this is what I can do. And it's almost like the father and son kind of situation between the two. And you can see a really, really good connection, a positive connection between the two as they're playing guitars with each other. And that, for me, says it all. And at the end of the actual gig, Peter Frampton says to the audience, well, basically, that was just a dream come true. You've got Prince, who's playing a Telecaster, and you've got to watch it. And this is a typical, this is showmanship coming into it as well. And this is what improvisation is all about. You get into a zone, and when you're in that zone, nothing matters, nothing cares. And when Prince was playing that final guitar solo, he's just completely 100% in that zone. So much that he falls back, into the audience, is stopped by a member of security who supported him while he's leaning back, who then basically ushers him back onto the stage, And he carries on his guitar solo on his Telecaster. What a guy. And it's an absolute shame that he's not around anymore to perform. But again, that is just another case of improvisation at its finest. And equally, he is embracing all the vibe, all the feedback from all these people, all these different elements that he's soaking in to give you that performance within that small time frame of his life. Okay guys, so I've got a little bit of a confession to make. Just get me brew again. So the video at the beginning of this edition of Gigs and Guitars shows me playing the my version of of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and as I've said, I've just got a little bit of wah wah pedal on there, and I've got a little bit of fuzz going on as well, which is from the Big Muff. And again, it's a few bits of tones and things which I wanted to add to my version of it. But I did some other takes on my other guitars just to get a little bit of a vibe for it. But I've got to say, the ones I was happy with at that moment in time was on my white guitar, the JS1000. I make mistakes when I'm recording things on guitar because I'm concentrating on, does the picture on the camera look good? Have I pressed record on the camera? Have I pressed record on the computer to actually record the actual track into Ableton 10? And then I might end up with another distraction of, say, the dog walking outside the room and you hear him clip-clopping around and his claws on the floor. The dog's outside the door. Is my mic going to pick it up? And that's yet another distraction, another bum note played. It's not an ideal world. We never get to where we want to be when we're playing our guitar, but we try to be the best that we possibly can be. We're not comparing ourselves to anybody else because guess what? We're all different. We'll hopefully get our own unique tones and styles, but we can use these famous guitarists or people that inspire you to play as a guide, as a benchmark for where you perhaps want to be. And it might be that you get to where you want to be at some stage. I know that my journey on the guitar path will be ever continuing. I'll never get to the destination, but let's enjoy the journey on the way. Please support the channel by liking, by sharing and subscribing to Gigs and Guitars. It really is appreciated and there's some great future content to come. Hang on, there's always time of the day for a brew. Cracking.